Firefighters are first responders to unimaginable life and death emergencies. They train to save lives, but coping with the weight of the noble task of being a firefighter can lead to an internal fire of depression, anxiety, and sometimes suicide. Who will answer the call for the firefighter as they try to find ways to cope with post-traumatic stress injury?
Well, as a spouse, you just want, for me, what all I knew that I I wasn't going to be able to heal Janice or help in that process. Like, uh, I don't know how you would say it, but just like she needed to work through that herself. But as a spouse, what I tried to do was be available as much as I could, so that if she needed to take a break and go away for the weekend or go visit a friend or whatever she needed, that I would be available to take care of the kids or just support in that way as best I could. Obviously, I was always available to talk and cry together, hug, whatever the situation was. And we it's been a tough road, and because I'm not just a spouse, I also went through the event, so I have my own internal stuff that I'm trying to work through. So it's been very difficult. Um, Thankfully, we've had uh, a couple of people we've been working with that have been uh, great to help us talk through it, professionals to talk through it and help us, work through the whole event and then the aftermath, and just trying to move on with your life. And this thing, um, you don't know how it's going to affect you. I mean, you in the moment you react. As firefighters, we didn't think really about our safety. We reacted and kind of like we were just firefighters now, and we had responded to the scene almost. And uh, it's just that training, years of training, and it just took over. But it's the aftermath and just dealing with the reality of it. And now, recently with this, it seems like every other day there's some sort of mass shooting or something, and it's as you start to, it's kind of the old like two steps forward, one step back, or something like that. Like you start to feel like you're making some progress, and then something like that happens, and it takes you right back. I know recently the Gilroy one for me really hit me hard because seeing the images, it was a festival.
And we had two of our people were there. Two of our firefighters were there as well. And knowing that what
At
they were,
least two that we
at
know
least that
of.
we
Yeah.
know of, and knowing what they were going through, we could feel for them, and we wanted to reach out to them and say, we're here. We can help. We'll help you and share our experience with them to help so that they didn't have to struggle like we did, because we didn't know what was happening to us or what could potentially, need us to put hands on. So, and when the more and more of these things happen, we're all going to be impacted by that. We're all going to have to deal with the recovery of that. Well, that was one of the things that in that peer support training that we're saying that was really valuable, of having counselors that understand first responders. It's a unique experience, because if you get somebody that doesn't understand what you're going through, you're not going to try again, because it's hard enough to reach out, and let alone, well, that didn't work out, or that person wasn't very compassionate. Then I'm like, well, what? I guess you don't try again. And that's the scary part, and that's where people get driven in, and and then feel the sense of hopelessness and all those behaviors that come out of that. The Police Officers Association really reached out to us and offered us their counselors, and they were amazing. They knew what was happening. They knew what we needed. My person was amazing in offering me different approaches on how I can view this and different methods on what I was going through. And she was amazing. And at having that experience and feeling supported and understood as you're going through something that you didn't understand yourself, help explain what you're going through, help explain what you're feeling, and then this is how you recover, was amazing. And I will always be grateful to Dr. Parks. She was, and her ability to recognize what our department needs. She's been part of the peer support training, and she recognizes that after 150 years, we're finally asking for help. And she says, you guys have a long road, and she's been really pivotal in making sure that we stay on track, recognizing how things can go a little awry if there's too many cooks in the, because everybody wants to help. Right now, the awareness is on this, but if we don't organize it in a way that makes sense, we'll get lost again. And then again, it'll be like, we're not going to try again. And that's where I don't want that to fail.
But just having that
trained professional that
knows, and the person that I went to was a 30-year veteran of the police department, and then became, I guess, along the way, became a peer counselor, and then a, certified. I don't even know what their
psychologist.
What their official title is, but just being able to talk to somebody that's, been in our profession, and it just made, for me, I felt more comfortable talking to this person. I felt like they understood when I talked about what went on in the job. They understand that because they've seen it. And
it's that shorthand, right?
Some of the things that we've responded to, the incidents we've responded to over the years, and like many firefighters, like I said, in the moment, you just go to work, you do what you can to treat this person, and then you move on for the next call. And you never know when all that's going to come out. And when you have an event like this, like one of our people said to me, is like, we bottle up a lot of stuff, but you never know what's going to break open the bottle. And then all this stuff that you think has been buried and haven't even thought about for years and years, now it all of a sudden comes out. And so just having, for me, just being able to talk to this individual and have him be a peer, even though he didn't work in our department and he worked in the police department in a different city, but it was a big city and it was a busy department, and he saw a lot of the same horrific stuff that we see. So that I just felt much more at ease than just walking into some doctor's office and trying to
explain culture,
what we do, first of all, on top of what just happened.
Right.
I would be exhausted trying to go to give you the backstory. And I would be like, I don't want to do this anymore. So, and the one thing that he told me, like on the very first day, I think it might even been the day when we were both there, but he said, right now, this event, it's like you're in the front row of a movie theater, and it's huge on the big screen in your mind, and you're in the front row. And he goes, you're never gonna forget this event, but our goal is to eventually have you be in the back row of the movie theater, and it's just on a little 12-inch black and white TV or something. And keeping that visual of like, okay, yes. I'm not at the back row yet, but I'm not in the front row anymore. Right. And I'm moving back. And sometimes I got to get up and move a couple more rows to the front. Like I said, this Gilroy thing really, there's been other shootings and different things, but that one, it sent shivers up my spine, and I didn't even watch I can't watch any of that stuff, but there was one still on the computer that just brought me back because it was a festival and people are running, and it just, I was instantly back in the moment, and it was a difficult. I was at work that night, and I called and talked to Janice a little bit, and I that that one thing shook me up more
A
than
trigger for
a
sure.
lot for the last few months, for sure. And but anyway, I just kind of got that picture of the movie theater. Once I kind of just breathe a little bit, relax, bring yourself down a little, and then I just kind of visualize that and like, okay, I just moved up a couple of rows, but I'm still not
I'm
in
gonna
the
be
front
okay.
row, and I'm gonna be okay.
Right.
And
Believing that.
and then being, I went, and again, he made time for me early in the morning. I went to see him before I went to work, because I came home, and he couldn't see me that day. But then the next morning, I stopped in there early on my way to work because I felt like I didn't want to wait to see him. I really wanted to talk to him. So I was very grateful that he made that time for me.
The hard part is not trying to dilute it, right? So every time something happens on the news, we're going to come in. We're going to have you, whatever. I think it's just the idea of when you need help, because it's all individualized as well, is that you can get help, that it's available to you. And that, putting that into our culture and understanding that would be more than just having somebody come in and talk to you, because now we have to make time for you. We have to organize our day, or, we might get a call while you're there talking to us. But it's just the idea that, when you need help, that somebody that you trust or that understands what you're going through is going to be available to you is huge. That's the one thing.
And the biggest thing is that the administration, the fire department administration, the city
The current one.
administration, the current, and but they, and I believe this new administration is definitely on board with this, but they have to understand, and the city needs to understand, that when these type of events happen, you just have to take care of the person, and not like, we'll sort out the other stuff afterwards. Like, is this going to be covered or not covered?
What's the paperwork you need
Yeah,
to do?
what
you need to make sure you
paperwork?
fill out the proper form.
Yeah, that
It should be
that
streamlined.
can't be the priority
Yeah.
when you have a
Who's going to pay
major
for this?
event like this. And that was an issue for us right off the bat, and it was like, we just wanted to get a blood test to make sure we were okay, like we hadn't been exposed. We were both,
covered in
in
blood,
other
cuts
people's
in our
blood,
hands.
and that's all we wanted, just to, like,
The
initially
support.
like, are we okay? Were we exposed to something? Get a baseline and make sure it was okay. And it was like, all of a sudden they were like, well, you're not really covered, and this, and I mean, that just added a whole level more of stress, that
At a moment where you were
right,
really
like within a
not
couple of
able.
days of the event, and it
awful.
was ridiculous.
Yeah, they coined a phrase, or I heard in that peer training network. It was called administrative betrayal. And that sat home with me because that's how I felt. I felt like the administration didn't support what I'd gone through, and I didn't have their support as I was trying to recover. And knowing that made my recovery harder and more, I felt more vulnerable and ashamed with what I went through.
Yeah, having the administration tell you, oh, take as much time as you need. That's not. I mean, sure, that's great, but I don't need their permission to take my time.
My own
I mean, I'll
vacations
take my own sick time or vacation time or whatever I need to do. I don't need their permission. So that's not really. I mean, I'm sure it's well intended, but that's not really
support.
That's not true support.
That's not being supported by the people. Exactly.
Yeah. And anyway, I do feel confident that our new administration is much more aware and on board with the mental health aspect and supporting firefighters, and trying to give us the tools that we need, or the help that we need to navigate through whatever the incident is, and hopefully come out that other end so that you are in that back row, and you can still function and you can move forward, and So I am confident that they are trying to make improvements, but the San Francisco needs, and other cities around the country, they need to step up their game. They can't treat this like, oh, it's, come on, tough it out, whatever. We've been doing that for a long time, and we've seen it. I know I can't speak for other cities, but I know within San Francisco, in the police department, they had a lot of, over the last several years, they had a lot of suicides. And that was finally the wake up call to their department to say, hey, we're not helping our members. We're not taking this serious enough. We're not doing this. Fortunately, we haven't had that, or we haven't come to that in our department. But there are, we see as much of the same things, and there's a lot of people walking around that might not even know that they have these things, buried down. Like, they might not even understand how it's affecting them, and whether it's in their personal lives, or how they are at work, or all of the above. So we do need to be more responsive, and they need to provide some funding so that we can have these professionals. We're certainly not saying that every single call you go on that you got to sit down and talk to a therapist for a half hour. That's not what we're saying. But when you go to these major things, it should be at least be made available.
If you're in a crisis and need immediate attention, dial 911 or call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255. Or call Safe Call Now, a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week first responder helpline at 1-206-459-3020. Your support of the Bay Area Mental Health Hour makes it possible to produce news like this. Thank you.